Well, it's 3 o'clock and it's about that time. Good afternoon, everyone. I'd like to call to order this meeting of Records and Public Safety for March 11th, 2021. Mr. Keys, may we have a roll call, please?
Yep, we can start with Chair Brown.
Don Brown, present, voting Macomb County, Michigan for Mount Clemens.
Thank you. And Committee Chair Romano.
Commissioner Romano, District 4, Sterling Heights, present and participating remotely in Macomb County, Michigan.
Commissioner Kleinfeld.
Veronica Kleinfeld, East Point, Macomb County, Michigan.
Commissioner Kraft.
Commissioner Phil Kraft, attending remotely from Chesterfield Township, Macomb County, Michigan.
Commissioner Haw.
Commissioner Haw, attending remotely, Roseville, Macomb County, Michigan.
Commissioner Wallace.
Commissioner Wallace, attending remotely, Mount Clemens, Michigan.
Commissioner Song.
Commissioner Song, attending remotely from Warren, Macomb County, Michigan.
Commissioner Van Sickle.
I'm Van Sickle, attending remotely, Sterling Heights, Michigan, Macomb County, Michigan.
Commissioner Zinner.
Commissioner Zinner, attending remotely, Harrison Township, Macomb County, Michigan.
Commissioner Matuzik.
Commissioner Matuzik, attending remotely, Clinton Township, Macomb County, Michigan.
Commissioner Farrington.
Commissioner Farrington, attending remotely from Utica, Macomb County, Michigan.
Commissioner Sabatini.
Commissioner Sabatini, attending remotely from Macomb Township, Macomb County, Michigan.
Commissioner Nard.
Commissioner Nard, attending remotely from Warren, Macomb County, Michigan.
And that completes the roll, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Keys. Item 2 is the Pledge of Allegiance. If you would please stand. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Item 3 is the adoption of the agenda. I'll need a motion and support, commissioners, if I may.
Farrington makes a motion.
Support.
Well, I heard Farrington made the motion. Who did make the support?
Wallace.
Wald made the support. Thank you. Commissioners, would you vote, please?
That motion passes 13-0.
Thank you. Item 4 is the approval of the minutes dated February the 11th, 2021. I need a motion and support.
Matuzik moves.
Nard, support.
I have Matuzik and
Nard.
Nard. Thank you. Any additions or corrections? Hearing and seeing none. Commissioners, please vote.
That motion passes 13-0.
Thank you, Mr. Key. Number 5 is public participation. So you have 3 minutes. Any person or persons that would like to speak in public participation, you may do so as long as it is items on the agenda. Afterwards, we have a second public participation, which you can speak on any items that you do wish. For those who plan to speak during the public participation, please be aware. Personal attacks, derogatory statements, it won't be tolerated by this chair. Any type of mislanguage, the speaker will be removed from the meeting. Also, those who want to call in by phone will be asked to speak first. Those who join in virtually will be asked to type their name in the Google chat box. Staff, is there anyone who would like to speak in the public participation?
Chair, there is no one who has announced themselves on the phone, and there are no names in the chat box.
Thank you, staff. We'll move on to item number 6, which is presentations. And that is going to be our clerk and register of deeds, Mr. Forlini. This is a receive and file. He's going to give us an overview of what's going on in his particular office. I also need a motion to receive and file.
So
motion, Farrington.
Motion.
I heard Saul and I heard Chair Brown. Hello?
Support Farrington.
Thank you, Farrington, Commissioner. All right, Mr. Ferlini. Commissioner, I'm sorry.
Good afternoon.
Clerk Ferlini. Good afternoon. The floor is yours.
Am I able to share a screen here so you can follow along?
You go right ahead. We'll pick it up.
You got it?
Yeah,
Got it.
Okay, well, thank you, Commissioners. I appreciate the time to talk about the Macomb County Clerk and Register of Deeds. There's a lot going on in this office right now, and I want to bring up my management team here. First off, Kathy Smith, I'm sure everyone there recognizes that name. She did quite a job in the interim as the clerk, as an appointed position. I picked her up, and she's done a tremendous job. Recently addition is Jennifer Walker. She's a deputy register of deeds. She's been around a couple of weeks, and she's got a really strong background in computers. And since we've changed to the new Tyler system here, she has just picked it up and has been just a tremendous amount of help just in the week that she's been here. And finally, Brian Burtock. I'm sure many of you know Brian. He's been around. He was a county commissioner at one time, and he's the operations chief. And Brian just keeps things humming here really nice. So I just want to give hats off to this group. But when I ran for county clerk, register of deeds, I also realized I was doing a lot of other things that I found here. Elections, vital records, jury room, remonumentation that you heard about last week. We're doing CPLs, the file room, and the court section of the clerk's office, and also all the clerks. So there's a lot going on at this office, not just the clerk, register of deeds. And just a good amount of people in all these different departments just keeping everything going very well. I want to talk about the court building and what goes on there. Just this year alone, I'm talking 2021, the last 2 months, our group has filed over 38,000 e-file bundles. And this isn't one document. It could be one. It could be hundreds of documents in each bundle. That's just this year alone. They opened up over 2,400 new court cases. Abstracting of records, we report criminal history to the Michigan State Police. And this year alone, we reported over 1,400 cases, including lien entries and Secretary of State reporting for driver's license sanctions. We are current on all this, by the way, with a 24 to 48 hour turnaround. So this group has just done a tremendous job. And now, as far as the jury room, this week you might have seen we started having jury trials, and we're processing jurists. And this was my first experience in seeing the amount of people that are coming in now and doing their jury duty. And it was a new thing for a lot of people, including myself. But things are going very well. The first day was a little bit of an adjustment, but then after that, the group really has done a great job processing all these jurors. We have 15 judicial court clerks assigned, one assigned to each judge. We have 7 judicial court swing clerks. And we have 4 that are trained. We're getting another 3. The biggest struggle we have in this area is retaining good employees, because it is a very, very difficult, high-stress job, and trying to get people in through the system to get to that level. That was what I found to be the biggest struggle we have over in the court building. Now, if we go down the street to 120 North Main, again, this group of people led by Tammy Brennan with Vital Records and Lisa Moan and Chris Feliciano and the Register of Deeds side, these supervisors have done a tremendous amount of work and continue to do just fantastic. On the Vital side, we're averaging about 300 marriages a month that they're processing. This year alone, we've had 938 death certificates that we've issued and 370 birth records. Now, that's not a good trend when you have that many more deaths over births. So we got to do something about this and get a few more births in there. Otherwise, we're going to be a losing population. CPLs, we are doing a bang-up job there. We're doing somewhere in the neighborhood of 60 to 100 CPLs a day. And these are people that have
Excuse
to
me,
come in here.
Clerk Solini, would you tell, for the sake of the new commissioners, the CPL, what you're talking about? I know, but maybe they don't. What are we talking about?
I'm sorry,
Thank
the concealed pistol license.
Thank you.
Yeah, the people come in. Thank you for telling me that. I don't like it when people throw acronyms wrong because I don't catch them half the time. But we've had other counties call us and ask us how we're doing it, because if you want to come in tomorrow, we'll get you an appointment tomorrow. We're one of the few places around major counties that are able to turn that around. As a matter of fact, you might have seen Wayne County just recently are still processing. They're not taking appointments in 2021 anymore. They're out to 2022. So, hats off to the group here. They're doing a great job. Along in that same department, Vital Records, they're doing about 100,000 transactions a year. 100,000. I had no idea before I came here the amount of work that is going on in just that one department. On the Register of Deeds side, in 2020, they had 163,000 total transactions last year. That includes deeds, mortgages, and liens. So this is a very, very busy office and a lot of interaction with the public. The third building we're in is 32 Market Street. Whereas across the country, and this is led by Michael Grix, the chief election clerk. Mike is just a fantastic individual to deal with. He keeps things on the straight and narrow. Where a lot of the rest of the country has seen controversy in the area of elections, Macomb County hasn't seen any. And so I give a lot of credit to Michael Grix for making sure he runs things in a very upfront manner. And because of that, you've seen very little controversy here in Macomb County. And that's all done by 4 employees. So these 4 employees do a fantastic job. One of the things I want to change in this department, though, is any of you that have run other races, the software that's used at the state level or even at the federal level. When I ran for Congress, there was everything's done online. Everything's done with a really the work is done on the candidate side, and all that background work is done on a computer. Ours is a little bit more, not a little bit, a lot more interactive with the staff here. And the problem I see is it's just things need to be updated, and we're actively looking at software right now to upgrade the campaign finance software. Currently, they have 700 active campaign finance committees and filings that they oversee. They also work with the Macomb County Board of Canvassers to certify all the elections. In 2020, they spent 27 days total certifying 4 races. So small group of people, very professional, and they do a great job. When I first came in office, this is where we were. The doors, a little bit of a miscommunication here, I think. Mask required for entry, but then they say, do not enter. And that was one door. There's 2 doors, and those were plastered all over. If you walked in, the bathrooms were closed to the public, out of service per COVID-19 guidelines. You can see the drinking fountain in the distance where the signs and all the tape. It was just, this was a sign of where we were, and what we've done is kind of clean it up. Still have the cautions. We want to make sure we do the proper. We want to have the people safe, but at the same time, we want a clean looking operation. And that's what this group of people have done. They've done a great job since I've been here, cleaning it up, making it look professional, yet still keeping people safe, because that's important. Just looking into the future, the few things I'm looking at is I want to get, like I said earlier, a little bit more to electronic filings, get 100% electronic filings if we can. Remove the paper as much as possible. And I want to start a program to eliminate the paper file storage. One day we'll have to take a little tour of the, if you haven't done it yet, central storage, where we have millions of files, and many of them have not been scanned yet. And that's something that we need to take a look at. Again, I mentioned the updating candidate campaign finance filings. That's something we're looking at right now. And I'd like to get the election department over to 120 North Main somehow. And that's something that maybe is a little bit more longer term, but it's important because right now, if any of you go to do the filings, I've had an elected official tell me that they go over to where probations is, and that's where elections is they had a guy peeing in a bottle while they were going to file, and they get, they got to go through the metal detectors and go through all the they don't know who's coming in. Is it somebody on probation, or is it an elected official? So maybe both. But this is something that we want to change. We want to try to get the election department over here. It's a little bit easier for me to oversee that department. So, and then maybe take a look at the storage of vital records. Right now, we're going over to the 32 Market Street to get vital records a couple times a week. Somebody are looking doing genealogy, and we got to go pull records there and bring them back. I think there's a better way of doing it, and that's something we're going to look at. If we do all these things, I believe we can bring a lower cost of government, be much more responsive to the residents, and really, I think it's important that we're transparent. So we're able to get these things out there and get them to the public in a very easy manner. I think that's important, and protecting our documents for the long term. We need to do that. And when you see, we'll do a tour one day, and we'll show you where they're at, and you can see that there's, I think, a little bit of a liability where they're stored right now. But in all this comes down to good people, and our people just, I believe, give world-class service. They're here to work. We're 100% in the Register of Deeds office. Everybody is here working and being safe. And I give credit to all the employees for everything that they're doing. It's just an incredible job that they've kept things the way they have. So that's all I have. If anyone's got any questions, I'm happy to answer them.
Thank you, Clerk Forlini, for a thorough presentation. Now, instead of my switching back and forth, I'm going to go to staff to see if there's any commissioners who have any questions. Staff, are there any commissioners?
Yes, Commissioner Ha.
Commissioner Hall, you're up.
Thank you, Chairman. First, Tony, let me congratulate you on the staff that you have put together, bringing in former clerk Kathy Smith, and now your deputy is quite an accomplishment in itself. And Brian's an old Roseville guy, so I've known those two for a very long time. So congratulations on that.
Thank you.
Two quick questions, Tony. How large is the staff in the clerk's office?
So we have I think it's 46 people in the court building, and then over here, Registered Deeds, we're right around 40. And then 4 in elections.
Wow, that's a very large staff. So second question, and this has been one of my pet projects, we had put a program in place on those that had fines and fees on campaign finance violations. And I think the last time I looked, it was somewhere around $240,000 or $250,000. And the clerk's office and the treasurer's office were working together collectively to see what they get. We have even committed to the clerk's office that based on what they collect, there's a percentage that would be returned back to your budget through the process. So could you give me an update of where that stands?
Well, that goes back into updating the software, because Commissioner Ha, you and I talked about this, and I started looking into it, and it's a lot of work on these 4 people to try to pull all this together. But I'll give you a couple of examples of where these numbers come from. We got Citizens for a Safe Community. I don't know who they are, but the formation date was in 2004. They owe $31,500. There's some old county commissioners that go back to the early 2000s. And collectively, there's about $30,000 right there of other fees if you start collecting them. I'm not even sure if some of these people are alive. So I really want to get this software updated, and I want to get it to the point where it's a little bit more automated, and our staff isn't having to input information and chase people down. I'd like to, what had gone on in the past is, to me, the past. We've passed it on to the treasurer, and the treasurer is, I know that there's some people they've gone after. I'm not even sure if they can go after them because I'm not even sure if they're alive. So I really need to, with some direction here, we may have to clean this list up a bit and then really stay on top of people and make sure that they do what they need to do and pay what they need to pay. And don't let it get out of hand. I think what's happened is these fees have gotten so out of hand, we know we're not going to collect. And we know they're not going to pay. And they may not ever be running for office again. So there's a compromise, and Michael Grix and I have sat down and talked about this, and we're going to bring something forward to the board some point in the future, maybe a compromise on how to get these things collected and clean up the old list.
Thank you. And I still believe it's state law that you have to sign an affidavit when you run for office indicating you do not have campaign finance fees that are required. So those that are playing by the rules, we're rewarding bad behavior on the other side. So thank you very much for continuously taking a look at that. That's all I have, Mr. Chair. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Hall. Staff?
Commissioner Zinner.
Commissioner Zinner, you're up.
Thank you, Chair. Hi, Anthony.
Hello.
I know that I saw that the charge for copies has gone up quite a bit. I understand. I mean, I think it's $15 for the first sheet. Is that correct? And $5 for the following sheets for regular citizens coming in for paperwork. Is that correct?
I know that that's the case for death certificates and maybe even birth certificates. I don't believe that's the case. If you're talking about a FOIA, perhaps.
No, I'm talking about if a regular citizen comes in for that kind of paperwork.
Yeah, a certified copy, I believe, is $15. That hasn't changed since I've been here, but I believe that is the cost. You're correct.
Oh, well, then I didn't realize it had changed before you. I know a couple years ago it wasn't that high, but I don't know when the change was then. So, okay.
I can't answer that.
All right then. So, I just thought that was a little high for, average citizens and people like with having a baby. Some people will get like 12 copies because they're going to use that for events for their kids and stuff. But that's the way it's been, and it wasn't a change. Then I guess it's more than acceptable. Thank you.
Yeah, I don't know how that compares to other counties, but I would think that I did question some of that, and I don't know if it's specifically these documents, but I did question the same thing you're questioning, and my understanding is we're right in the ballpark with other counties.
Thank you.
Thank you, Clerk Ferlini. I think I'd mentioned this to commissioners before, and I guess I'll bring it up one more time before we go on to the next commissioner, if they're speakers. If at any time commissioners have a question, I'm sure that any director would be more than happy to answer any of their questions just by a simple phone call. So please keep that in mind. Directors are always willing to talk to us as commissioners. In fact, they look forward to talking to us as commissioners to answer any of our questions. So don't be bashful, and I kind of direct this to the new commissioners. Feel free to call them at any time, and they'll give you the answers that you're looking for. Staff, do we have somebody else on the line?
Yes, Commissioner Kleinfeld is next.
Thank you.
Kleinfeld?
Thank you, Chair. With respect to the campaign stuff, I agree with you 100% that they're not going to be collectible. What I would like to see, and I think I've wanted to see this for a long time, I don't care if you start with 0, is stay on top of the ones that come in and apply pressure to them, because you're right. I know somebody that went from $100 to $300 to $600, and that person owes over $6,000 now, and they're never going to pay because they know that they'll never run again. I also know people, though, and this is my question, that have signed the affidavit saying they don't owe any money and actually owe money and get elected and get sworn in, and there isn't any ramification for that. Is there any way out of your office, when they file for office, if they owe money and they have said that they don't, well, a lot of times they sign it before they take office. It's after the election. Is there any way for you to keep them off the ballot?
I think we have Mike Ricks on the line here with us, and he would have a better background on that, being the head of elections. If Mike's on the line, if you want to answer that question, Mike.
Sure. Commissioner, and I'm certainly not an attorney, Corporation Counsel may be able to speak better to the legalities of it, but my understanding is that when the statement that they sign must be true at the time that they sign it. So if they incur campaign finance fines and late fees after they sign the affidavit of identity when they're running for office,
Let's
that's a
just
different
say,
story.
for the sake of conversation and for actual situations, the money is owed before they ever sign that document. They sign the document, they turn it in, they take office. Is there any ramifications on your end? Is there any cross-checking on that?
There is. We check our campaign finance system when they file for office. So it's possible we missed something. I mean, we're not perfect, but yes, we do check that before someone files for office.
Okay, and then really quick on the documents, we have hired, I know over the years, over and over again, we've hired companies to scan in papers, I think in pretty much every department. Your department, are there still state laws that require your physical paper copies of a lot of things that you do?
In terms of campaign finance?
Oh, no, I'm talking to
I'm sorry.
Corlini. I'm sorry, Michael.
Yes. So I think that it depends what department you're talking about. If you go over to the court building, certain divisions of the court require the paper still. Other divisions are doing more e-filings and that type of a thing. And I believe there is still a requirement to hold on to paper. But from the standpoint, I've seen it where I've been to the central warehouse and they'd go to look for a file. These files got to be 12 foot high, seem like they're 100 foot long, and seems like acres of these files. And something out of a Dr. Seuss book, honest to God, you're just going everywhere. And I would think that there's a better way that we can do this. And even if we have to retain the paper files somewhere, getting them could be a lot easier if we had them scanned.
I would agree with you. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Staff?
Yes, Commissioner Matuzek is next.
Hi, thank
Commissioner
you.
Matuzek, go ahead.
Thank you, Clerk Fellini. I'm in full agreement, and I hope we can modernize the campaign finance system. If we can integrate it with the MERT system in the state, that would be great. Something that sort of works easily is my hope. My next point is not. I don't know if it's specifically your problem or our collective problem. But walking into the elections department, I nearly got killed by a car speeding in front of the building, which is a cutoff between to and from northbound Gratiot. A placement of a speed bump would do wonders to save someone's life, because truly, if you talk to the security guards there, they will tell you that people speed through that little passageway in front of the office. And someone is going to get hurt there. So anything we can collectively do to save a life with a speed bump, I'm in favor of. As I said, I don't know that that's specifically your problem, but I was walking to your office. So, it's now on you.
Well, I'll tell you, elections have their people, we have our elected officials go there and candidates, and there's quite a few of them, right? And the less traffic we have over there and bring them over to 120 North Main, I think that would be a good step in the right direction.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Forlini. Who's next, Staff?
I have Chair Brown, and currently he is the last speaker.
Chair Brown, you're up.
Well, great question.
Chair Brown? I think we lost Chair. I think we lost Chair Brown. All right, this is a motion to receive and file. So if you would please vote.
That motion passes 13-0.
Thank you, Mr. Keys. Item 7 is department recommendation. Item A is a budget amendment, election department, special primary, and special general elections for Senate District 8, looking for $265,800. I think Clerk Forlini, you also wish to speak on this?
Yes, myself and Michael Grix.
Go ahead, Clerk Forlini.
Mr. Chair, I'll make a motion to approve that.
And I'll
Commissioner
Thank
Kraft.
you. We have a motion to move this to full board. Mr. Kraft in the second.
Support Matusik.
Thank you. Kraft and Matusik. Go ahead, Mr. Forlini.
So as soon as I came in office, obviously there was an election in the 8th Senate District where countywide, where Senator Pete Lucido was elected Macomb County prosecutor. So in January of this year, Governor Whitmer called a special primary in August and a special general election in November to fill that vacancy. The purpose for the amending the budget by $265,000 is to increase supplies and services with a corresponding increase in the use of the general fund. That's to cover the costs associated with the administration of a special primary and a special general election in Senate District 8. I think in the paperwork you got, you see how the money is broken out, but this would be, according to Michael Grix, the high end of where things may be. He doesn't suspect we're going to use that, but it all depends on if there's things that happen afterwards that we need to come back at. For instance, if there's a recount, there's money in there for that also. And of course, if we don't have one, we're not going to need it.
Very good. Okay, staff, any questions? Commissioners?
Commissioner Song would like to speak.
Commissioner Song, go ahead.
Thank you, Chair. Hi, Mr. Forlini. Does it cost $265,000 to run an election for just one seat? What is the average cost? Have you guys taken that into consideration? Because you're asking for this amount, but you also said you guys might not even use up to that amount. That this is on the high end. So what is the average and what is the low end?
So I'm going to probably let Michael talk to this. However, if you see the breakdown in the board packet, we break it down based on, how many ballots we're proposing to print out for that size district. If there's 60,000 for a recount, one recount, if we don't need a recount, that money obviously drops off. There's if it's a one-sided ballot, it's going to cost, I think it was 24 cents a piece. But if it's only one-sided, it's not going to be that expensive. So a lot of factors go into this, and there's no such thing as an average, all depending on which election you're talking about. But Mike, I don't know if you have any more you want to add to that.
Sure.
Mr. Griggs?
Yes, sir.
Anything else you'd like to add to that?
Yes, thank you. So commissioners, as Mr. Clerk Forlini said, there are some assumptions that we make when putting this budget together. For example, the recount. We budget for one, we might have one, we might not have one, we might have two for all we know. It might be a full recount, it might be a partial recount. So we budget on the high end, and if we don't use the money, then it gets returned to the general fund. We make assumptions on the ballot printing. The 24 cents per ballot that we are assuming is again on the high end. That's for a 19-inch two-sided ballot. The size of the ballot is determined by the content of the ballot. So we know for sure we are going to have this special primary and special general. There are also city elections, city races that could or will be on the ballot this year. There are potential proposals. So we have to set our budget now, but we don't know what the content of the ballot is going to be. So if we don't use a two-sided 19-inch ballot, then our cost per ballot will be less. But again, we're estimating on the high side. The number of ballots that we are printing, we are again estimating 100%. We're printing enough ballots to take care of 100% of the voters. In reality, turnout probably isn't going to be 100%, and we're not going to use 100% of the ballot. So it's an educated guess on our part, but our educated guess is on the high side so that we don't have to come back to you 6 months from now and say, hey, we need another $50,000 because we guessed wrong. And as Clerk Forlini said, any money that is allocated to us that we don't use goes back into the general fund. So, it's not like the money gets wasted or anything like that. It does get returned to whence it came.
Thank you,
Commissioner
Michael.
Song, did that answer your question?
It did. So just to clarify, the ballots are, this budget is not just for the special election, but it's for the election in August and November, including city seats as well.
It varies. Generally, cities pay for their own election expenses. We get involved in the administration of it. We help produce, we do produce ballots, take care of programming, things like that, but the cost is generally borne by the city. There are some things that we do pay for depending on, again, the ballot content. For example, I think Mount Clemens City, they're having an election in November. They're also part of the special Senate district. So because the state election for the special primary in general is on the ballot, the city essentially gets a free ride. So whereas they would have paid for their own ballots, we are now paying for their ballots. But a city such as, and forgive me if this isn't actually true, Warren, I don't believe falls into that Senate district. Warren isn't even having an election. Let's say Sterling Heights. Sterling Heights is having their city election. They do not fall into that Senate district. So we will help produce their ballots, but they will pay for them. So these costs, we're not going to pay for anything that we normally wouldn't. We will pay for whatever is required due to this special Senate seat, but we're not going to just make a blanket statement and pay for everybody's ballots in the countywide.
Okay, thank you,
Thank you,
Chair.
Mr. Griggs. Thank you, Commissioner Song. Staff, anybody else?
No other speakers.
Thank you, staff. We have a motion to move to full board and support. Would you please vote?
That motion passes 13-0.
Thank you, Mr. Keys. Item B is Contract IC Solutions, proposal for expansion of inmate telecommunication services at no cost to the county. And we have somebody who's speaking to that, which would be Captain Lori Mish. Captain, are you on?
Motion to move forward. This is Commissioner Song.
I'm sorry, you're breaking up on. Try it again.
I'll make a motion to move to full board.
Support.
Thank you. We have a motion moved to full board. Support. Mr. Hall, Commissioner?
Yeah.
Thank you. Captain, are you on?
Yes, thank you, Chair. Thank you, Board. Captain Lori Mesh with the Macomb County Sheriff's Office. Before you, I have presented a proposal for an expansion of the inmate telecommunication services. It is an expansion and an extension of the contract that we have with IC Solutions. We have currently been with them since 2012. This contract would be for 5 years, again, for the expansion of our telecommunications for our inmates in the jail.
Thank you, Captain. Staff, any commissioners wish to have questions?
No, I have nobody listed.
Thank you. We have a motion and support. Commissioners, please vote.
That motion passes 13-0.
Thank you, Mr. Keys. Item C is purchase Vance's Law Enforcement ammo for duty training and SWAT, $66,840. I need a motion and support to move this to full board.
By Hall to move to full board.
Support Sabatini.
We have Hall and Sabatini. Thank you. We have Captain Doherty who would like to speak on this.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Board, as well. I am Captain Robert Doherty. This is a order for SWAT and road combined for the year 2022 ammo order, and in the amount of $66,840. It is through Vance's, who is the sole provider for the state of Michigan for law enforcement ammunition. I do have in my right also our range master, Sergeant Conklin in case there are some additional questions that I can't answer for you.
Thank you, Captain Doherty. Staff, do we have anybody that has any questions?
No speakers.
No speakers. We're going to let you off the hook this time, Captain Doherty. We have a motion and support. Commissioners, please vote.
That motion passes 13-0.
Thank you, Mr. Keys. Item D is a budget amendment. Prosecuting attorney. Fund 1, part-time special assistant prosecuting attorney, $45,400. I need the motion and support to move this to full board. Don't be bashful, commissioners.
Support Zinner.
Didn't hear.
Wallace.
I heard Zinner and
Wallace and Zinner.
thank you. Wallace and Zinner. Thank you. I think we have a prosecuting attorney or prosecutor here. Mr. Lucido. Mr. Lucido, are you on?
I am, and thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you, members of the commission. I appreciate your indulgence and consideration for the 3 matters that are line itemed in your agenda. I also want to thank the commissioners, and I'm going to be brief, that visited the office. I appreciate the fact that you took the time to get to know me and the operation and to get to know my chief assistant and some of the staff that you visited throughout the office. So thank you for giving your time to me and the office of the prosecutor. For those that you have not visited, this door is always open. I encourage you to come talk to me, visit with me and the staff, and I encourage you to do so because I don't think we're done just yet. Finally, I want to take the opportunity to publicly thank each and every support member of the prosecutor's office of their great devotion and their importance of the work that we do for the people of this county. And they're even working through their lunch hour to catch a losing battle, I guess, with the woeful backlogs of the incoming wave of cases. Let me make this clear, everybody, and I'm going to do this with your hopefully indulgence. I had nothing to do with this budget for 2021. It was provided to me, and I would have never settled for it. I would have articulated with specificity and particularity why these were unintended consequences in the case of the courthouses closing. It was the only department within the county that actually could not operate by way of executive order and also under the state Supreme Court order, which scale handles. So this office could not operate and take care of the citizens and give them timeliness in regards to justice. And unfortunately, amidst the corruption here and the recuperation of the same, the staff is a little bit beat up over this. However, we're going to do our best to, when the courts now are open and we're taking it slow in the process and deliberate, that we advance those causes for the citizens that live in this county and make sure that justice is served. However, the reduction that happened before my time.
Prosecutor attorney, I'm sorry. Prosecutor, Mr. Lucido, would you please, if you wouldn't mind, stick to the agenda and the budget amendment item?
Sure.
I'm sorry. I know that you want to elaborate, but if you would, we've got 3 of them to go through. I'd appreciate it, please.
Okay. You know what? At this point here, though, the budget amendment, I already know that it's coming from within monies that we scrounged together, and I'd appreciate your indulgence and support on that line.
Staff, any questions? Any commissioners have any questions?
No speakers, Chair. Oh, I'm sorry.
Thank you.
Commissioner Zong just requested to speak.
Thank you, Chair. Hello, Mr. Lucido.
Hello.
So my question is, the $45,000 for this agenda item is being taken from the supplies and services. So it's budget neutral, but what do you know what would normally be under supplies and services? And if you take the funding from that, will you need those supplies and services in the future?
This is the problem, and I've spent a lot of time. I know Mr. Schmiegel is on from the finance, and we have literally did a teeter-totter act with every little nickel in this budget. No, I don't know whether or not we're going to run out with supplies and services. But what you do is you take from wherever you can get it from to put full-line prosecutor services when these cases are open, and we know that we're going to have a backlog. It's been said in the news this morning, so we're doing what we can Would I come back for another amendment? I may have to. And quite frankly, I think I will, given the nature and circumstances of the judges that have hundreds of cases that are going to have to be tried in this next endeavor when these courts are starting to open. We've already started this week. I know that Clerk Ferlini's indicated he's starting to see people running in and out of the courthouses, and the judges have already started jury selections and the like. So it's a good question. I appreciate it. We're decreasing our supplies and services because we need physical bodies at the front line. That be correct, Steve? I just want to make sure I get my finance director involved.
Yeah, Commissioner Zong. So yeah, what's happening is we're moving money obviously from supplies and services into personnel. And if those monies are needed throughout the remainder of the year for the supplies and services, which is mainly mileage is where we're thinking at this point, then we do have forfeiture monies available to point or absorb those costs. So we'll have to see how things go through, the course of this year, but there are monies available in the forfeiture fund, or the local forfeiture fund, I'll call it, because there's also the federal fund as well. So those are discussions that I've had with the prosecutor and his staff, and that's sort of where we're looking to fund these expenses if they're needed.
That goes
Thank
to
you,
the
Mr. Spiegel.
Chair, Mr. Chair, I guess that would go to the next line item, which is
Well, we got to we have a motion. I'm sorry. We have other speakers, maybe, Mr. Lucido, if you'd hold on just one moment. Staff, do we have any other speakers or any other questions from commissioners?
Yes, from Commissioner Zinner.
Please, Commissioner Zinner, if you would, Mr. Lucido, still here.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I don't know what other commissioners think. We may all be thinking alike or not. I have no idea. I just think I would like to promote what the prosecutor is asking for in all these, because we have to have a prosecutor's office that is as fully vested as we can get it to whatever ability is available at this time. That's the way I feel as a citizen, for what my family would be driving around in, and what I think we all citizens would want. So I hope that we can help them all with everything we can here. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Zinner. Staff, anybody else?
No other speakers.
Thank you. The only comment I want to make, Mr. Prosecutor, is I agree. You do need bodies in lieu of supplies, and let's see what we can do to help you out. We now have a motion on the floor to move it to full board, and we have support. So, commissioners, if you would vote on item D, please.
That motion passes unanimously.
Thank you, Mr. Keys. We're on item E, which is a budget amendment, prosecutor attorney OWI forfeiture fund. The OWI is operating while intoxicated. Forfeiture fund for $110,000. I need a motion in support to move this to full board, please.
Motion by Farrington.
Is there a second?
Support.
We have Farrington, and I think I heard Zinner.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Motion and support. I believe Mr. Lucido, this is yours also.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. If you'll give me just a moment. So as a result of what is debacle happened in the prosecutor's office with the forfeiture funds, this department anticipated in the finance to add $110,000 revenue that we won't collect this year, given the nature of what the citizens had already heard about forfeiture and the abuse thereof. We decided to terminate the forfeiture. Therefore, that will not be part of the budget item that we can take from. Is that correct, Mr. Finance? Steve Smeagol?
Yeah, that is correct. We are reducing both the revenue budget and the expense budget in the OWI account. Obviously, we need to reduce the expenses because we don't have revenues coming in to support those budgetary dollars.
Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioners, staff, any commissioners have any questions?
Yes, Commissioner Kleinfeld.
Commissioner Kleinfeld, go ahead.
Thank you, Chair. A couple of things with respect to this, and I have philosophical issues with the forfeitures, but the premise that you're giving is one that I'm uncomfortable with, because we did a forensic audit. We ordered a forensic audit. We worked with the Michigan State Police. Sorry about that. We did everything we were supposed to do. We cleaned house. We have a new prosecutor. Everybody in the county knows that. So that question doesn't still persist. Now, with respect to these funds, a couple of things. The first is 50% of these funds went to local units of government, their police departments. Did you talk to the local units of government and get information on the impact that will have on the police departments in the local units of government?
Thank you, Commissioner Kleinfeld. If I may, Mr. Chairman?
Sure, go ahead, Mr. Lucido.
Thank you. There's 3 different forfeiture accounts here at the prosecutor's office. There's federal funds when we're dealing with federal issues. There's state funds, which is a civil asset forfeiture. Then there's the OWI, which was used as a slush fund. I hate to say it that way, but that's where I'm a little bit offended by how it worked. They were getting $900 on a first-time drunk driving and $1,800 on a second offense drunk driving. That money was in addition to the tow fees, storage fees, as well as fines and costs in a courthouse. All you do is oppress the poor of this county, and those individuals that are already been fined and cost. That money was brought in as an additional sum of money as punitive in nature. And I appreciate the fact that the line item was for $110,000, but I don't want a police for profit, nor do I want people pulled over that may be staked out at a bar when these restaurants and bars open. And therefore, I believe, given the nature and circumstances as the public perceives this as punitive and, more importantly, abusive as to what happened, we decided in the prosecutor's office to put a pause on it under the interim prosecutor, Gene Cloud, who paused it immediately. And I've decided to terminate it because I just don't feel $110,000 is worth it to penalize and punish. I just think asking forfeiture.
That's your prerogative. And I actually, like I said, I have philosophical questions myself. I just know that I just don't know if the police departments know that their part of the revenue is not going to be coming in anymore.
That revenue never was that. It was the civil asset forfeiture where drug dealers, as well as other information of crimes, that they seize the asset. And if they are found guilty or have pled guilty, then there is a civil asset forfeiture disposal of the property where the officers retain a percentage and this office will retain it. We are continuing that. No one will profit under criminal activity in this county.
I know that we're continuing that. I think there's a difference of opinion. So if I could ask the finance director, are you in agreement that the OWI funds do not get split?
Actually, there were disbursements made from the OWI account in prior years to the locals on a quarterly basis.
Okay, so there
were 50% of the proceeds.
Okay, and I'm not saying that it's right, Prosecutor Lucido. I don't want you to get the wrong idea. I just know that it's possible we might hear from the locals. So I just want that to be on everybody's radar. And as well, we will also, as a county, well, a lot of funds were misspent. There were funds that weren't misspent. So we will bear the cost of those now, as opposed to those fines taking place. So commissioners just also need to be aware of that. I'm not passing any judgment on it, just putting it on everybody's radar that the locals will take a little bit of a cut and we're going to take on more money of our own. Thank you.
Mr.
Thank you,
Chairman.
Commissioner Kleinfeld. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Prosecutor.
It's very important that I bring this statement. There is, in regards to each ordinance of each municipality in our county, there's cost recovery for the officer's time and expense on an OWI, as well as cost recovery of any of the township, cities, and villages that lose or have expended money in the arrest of an individual. This was a bonus on top of it. And I just want to be very clear. I think at this time, given the nature and circumstances, I appreciate.
That's why I'm saying I'm not passing judgment.
Excuse me, Commissioner Kleinfeld, would you let him finish, please? Go ahead.
I appreciate Commissioner Kleinfeld's appreciation of why I'm doing it at the time I'm doing it, because until we have a deeper discussion after the audit has been presented back to the board, we don't know what exactly happened until you get all your figures back to the board. And that's what I want to wait on and then make the presentation to the board to see whether or not they want to continue this activity.
Go ahead, Commissioner Kleinfeld.
No, I was agreeing with him. I have philosophical differences. I just wanted everybody to have a clear picture of what's going on, but I'm not disagreeing with the prosecutor. Thank you.
Thank
you, Commissioner Kleinfeld. Staff, do we have any other questions from commissioners?
No other speakers.
Seeing none, we have a motion and support. Commissioners, if you would please vote.
That motion passes 13-0.
Thank you, Mr. Keys. Item F is a budget amendment, prosecuting attorney federal forfeiture fund, $15,100. I would entertain a motion and support, please. Move it to full board.
Motion by Haw.
Support by Nard.
We have a motion by Hall and support by Nard, and we have Mr. Lucido. I believe you're up again, prosecutor.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. This one is dealing with federal forfeiture funds. This is a fund that is utilized for, and the fund balance for certain capital outlays that we are allowed to under law to utilize that forfeiture money to go ahead and train and or to go ahead and utilize for equipment, furniture, and the like. And what I'm asking in this case here is a vote for moving this money around to where it's needed again within the budget to backstop what it is we have a need for. And I defer to the finance director, Mr. Schmiegel, for any other update or comment.
Mr. Schmiegel?
Yeah, there's not much for me to add. We're just moving money out of conferences into furniture or capital outlay to fund needs that have been identified by Prosecutor Lucido and his staff, and then drawing down on some additional fund balance. I think what's important for, I think, the commission to understand is that there is fund balance available to process this.
Yeah.
Thank you. Staff, any commissioners with questions?
Yes, Commissioner Song.
Commissioner Song, go ahead.
Thank you, Chair. So the funds for the conferences and training, is it because of COVID? Like normally these conferences would be like in person, and the type of training, if you're reducing the funds for that, I mean, is that gonna affect anyone who normally would need that training?
Mr. Chairman?
Go ahead, prosecutor.
Excellent question. I appreciate that. We always have updated training based on the vast amount of laws the legislature puts through. And also we need the updates. We don't even have a legislative director, a legislative liaison to go over these things. But at any rate, to answer your question, we also need a table and chairs for the victim rights and the victims that come to the we don't even have a conference room. They're stuck in the lobby and we're talking to them in the lobby. So we've generated a conference room by bringing down a wall in an area, formulated a conference room, and that's what the tables and chairs are. For right now, going to trial, we need every space imaginable. And since we had COVID, we saved some money, then not taking it from there, although it'd be at pennies because you're looking at only $15,000. We didn't have to go to these conferences by way of in person. We did it on Zoom, which I hope they do this in the future so that we can stay abreast of the law and not commit malpractice and not know the law that we're actually advocating for the victims.
Thank you, prosecutors. Does that answer your question, Commissioner Song?
Yes, just to clarify, so the conference room furniture is for the victims. My understanding is, because I've been in the prosecutors on that floor, I think you guys have a library there and a conference room.
The library is gone. The library is gone. We had one conference room where the police would come up to look at videos as well as in body cams and in car. And I know the commissioners that came saw it, and that's all we had. We just generated those conference room because I could not see a victim anymore pouring their guts out in a lobby. It was done. Over.
Thank you, Prosecutor. Commissioner Song?
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Chair.
Staff, is there anybody else who has any questions?
No, no other speakers.
Thank you. We have a motion in support. If you would please vote, move this to full board. Thank you, Prosecutor. Thank you, Mr. Lucido.
Thank you, everybody, and I appreciate seeing you. Please, you're welcome to come on up at any time. I'd love to entertain as far as all of your questions at that time. Thank you.
Thank you.
That motion passes 13-0.
Thank you, Mr. Keys. Item 8 is new business. Any commissioners with new business? Staff, do we have anybody online?
Sorry, just a second. No, no speakers.
No speakers. Let's move to item number 9, which is public participation. Let me mention this before we go into public participation. If you're planning to speak during this public participation, please be advised this committee will not accept any personal attacks, any derogatory or cursing will not be tolerated, and the speaker will be immediately removed from the meeting. Now, those who want to call in by phone will first be asked to speak first, and you can do that by pressing *6, which will unmute you. Those who join in virtually will be asked to type their name in the Google chat box and will be recognized by the staff. You have 3 minutes. Staff, is there anybody who would like to speak first? Let's go to the phone first, if I may.
Chair, I don't hear anyone announcing themselves by the phone, and we do have Lillian Ellis in the chat box.
Thank you. Miss Ellis, you're more than welcome to speak. Go ahead. *6 will unmute you.
Hello?
Hi, you're on. Go ahead.
Hi, thank you so much. I just wanted to take the opportunity to ask the commissioners and Lucido to drop charges against all of the folks who were peacefully protesting in Shelby. I think protecting First Amendment constitutional rights to peacefully protest is really important, and I hope that Shelby can follow suit with the city of Detroit, where all the charges were dropped because of the importance of that First Amendment of the Constitution. So I just encourage you all to take a stand and be on the right side of history. Thank you so much.
Thank you for your comment. Staff, anybody else?
Chair, I see no other names in the chat box.
Okay, there's nobody in the chat box. How about on the phone, staff? Nobody else on the phone?
Oh, actually, Chair, I'm sorry. There is a person who wishes to speak. It is Seema Eshiandia.
Yes, thank you. Can you hear me?
Seema, go ahead. You're up.
Okay, thank you. Hi, Mr. Farrington, my district, and thank you for having me. I too want to speak on behalf of the Shelby 5. I am one of the people that was ticketed for impeding traffic. There was no traffic to be impeded. There were only police cars around who were blocking my ability to move peacefully and down a street that in a community in which I live. I also wish that we take cognizance of what's going on in other townships and other counties about charges to people who were peacefully protesting this year for Black Lives Matter. I am a resident of Shelby Township for the last 19 years, a voter, a taxpayer, and I continue to live here, will continue to live here, but we cannot condone the kind of behavior that has taken place by our police department. And Lucido's continuing persecution of these young people, and myself, it's just a simple traffic ticket, so I'm not going to feel really terribly persecuted. However, these young people, who many of them do live here in our community, feel persecuted, feel unhappy, and are making our whole lives here very, very uncomfortable. So I want you to, commissioners, I think also we need to look at what Prosecutor Lucido is now using public funds to pursue our governor, and I find that reprehensible. And I think you guys have got to look at how he is spending his money to do things that make no sense when we have domestic violence and other kinds of issues that are not being prosecuted. And I find, as a taxpayer, I totally object to this kind of use of taxpayer money. Thank you very much for listening to me, and I appreciate all the good work you've been doing to raise up our community. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Staff, anybody else?
Chair, there is no one else in the chat box.
Thank you. I'll close public participation. Go to item 10. I need a motion and support for adjournment, please.
Motion to adjourn. Kraft.
I heard the motion by
Kraft.
Supported by
Kraft,
Nard.
supported by Nard. Commissioners, please vote.
That motion passes unanimously.
Thank you, Mr. Keys. Commissioners, have a great weekend. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Joe.
You too, Joe,
You're
and
welcome.
everybody.
Thank you.